Plant reviews. Today I will talk about alliums, some of the most loved flowers by pollinators, as you can see by this bumblebee pollinating the flowers of the Allium Christophi, the star of Persia. Alliums are some of the most common garden plants thanks to their very ornamental flower heads, but also they are very common as edible crops because to this genus belong also the onions, the garlics, leeks, shallots, and some of the most common foods for people. The genus Allium is a genus that again comprises both ornamental and edible garlic and onions, and it is the largest genus in the family Amaryllidaceae and in the subfamily Alioideae, with hundreds of species. The precise number is still debated among taxonomists, among scientists. There are not only hundreds of species but also dozens of hybrids of ornamental onions, because obviously horticulturists, they are always trying to work out the most beautiful flowers for the gardens. The type species of Allium is Allium sativum, the cultivated garlic, and was described by Linnaeus in 1753, and he decided to give the name Allium from the word, the Greek word alleo, that means to avoid, possibly because people eating garlic and onions have not the most pleasant breath, and people tend to avoid them if they didn't eat garlic or onion themselves. Alliums is a genus of species, is a genus that occur in the wild in the northern hemisphere mostly, with a couple of species distributed in the southern hemisphere, in South America and in Africa. These are herbaceous perennials that can be between 5 centimeters and 150 centimeters tall, even if some hybrids are taller, including one I have in my front garden. It's called the summer drummer, that can reach, whose flower heads can reach more than 2.5 meters. As you can see, the flower heads are not open yet in this Allium. You can see the round flower head still enclosed by the sheath, but I will make another video when the summer drummer will be in full bloom this summer. Yeah, they bloom in late spring, early summer. The leaves of alliums vary in shape and color according to the species. Most are sword shaped or cylindrical, but some others are conical. It really depends by the species. And characteristic of alliums is that usually by the time the flower is in bloom, the foliage, like of the leaves of this Allium Christophi, is already withering. This is a thing that needs to be considered when in your planting scheme, because it's better to avoid planting alliums in areas that are very close to the front border, without other plants like other perennials able to cover the withering leaves, because obviously aesthetically will not be very pleasant. The flower heads are produced at the top of a leafless stalk, as you can see by these spent flower heads that are already producing the fruits. The flower have 6 tepals, and they are usually star-shaped. Color varies between purple, pink and white. However, yellow is also present in some species and hybrids. The flowers are usually not fragrant, or very slightly fragrant. However, they are some of the most loved flowers by pollinators for the copious amounts of nectar, and as you can see by the amount of flowers each flower head can produce, and they are, as you can see, they are continuously surrounded by pollinators, even trying actually to pollinate flowers that are already spent, as you can see by this poor bumblebee trying to find a flower to pollinate, but the plant is already producing the seed capsule. They grow, these plants have been cultivated for hundreds of years, obviously, because as I said, they are not only ornamental but very important for food. And alliums usually prefer in full sun and very well drained soil. Indeed, they are really thriving in my front garden, where it is in full sun. About the culture requirements, the plants are perennials, as I said, so they can live several years, and they are mostly bulbous perennials. You can buy the bulb in autumn to be planted in autumn. Just a few species have rhizomes or tubers, but all the garden varieties are bulbous plants. The bulbs are quite expensive. Usually they are at least 3-4 pounds. However, if you need large numbers of ornamental onions, ornamental garlics, usually both online stores give deals for if you buy large numbers of plants. And also at the end of the bulb sale season, usually in November, December, you can find even in garden centers bulbs discounted at 50% or sometimes 75%. I bought a large selection of alliums. They were comprising about 20 of this Allium Christophi and 20 Allium atropurpureum and another couple of alliums discounted from £9 to just 50p in December, so it was a very good deal. If you like particularly a variety of allium, I would say try to buy it as soon as possible, either online or in the garden center, because obviously that particular variety might run out in little time. However, if you prefer to wait for a better deal, most of the time very common varieties of alliums stay unsold at the end of the bulb sale, and you can have, as I said, very good deals in buying alliums. The flowers are born in dozens, sometimes over 100 per flower head, and the flower themselves last more than 2-3 weeks, and sometimes even more. They bloom at different times. You can see usually they start blooming from the periphery of the flower head, that usually, as you can see, is like shaped like a ball, and the ones in the center, as you can see, bloom last. You can see how many of these flowers are just still in bud. One thing about alliums, about the bulbs, try to plant them quite deeply, ideally 15-20 centimeters deep, because they need, these are very erect plants, and they need large support, especially plants with big flower head like the Christophi. You can see that they tend to bend down, the stems. The flower stems tend to bend downwards due to the weight of the flower head. What I do usually is planting these plants near other perennials that not only are able to mask the withering leaves when they die off in summer, but also they give some support to keep the flower stems straight, and this is particularly important. The taller the allium is and the bigger the flower head is. The most, as I said, there's many varieties of alliums and ornamental onions and ornamental garlics. Some of the most common hybrids are the Mount Everest, that has large white flowers, but also the Ambassador and the Globe Masters have huge purple flower heads. However, many species are also kept in gardens, like for example this one already mentioned, the Allium Christophi, the Star of Persia, but also the Allium schubertii, that is a peculiar species with the flower heads that kind of resemble a firework, and because the stems bearing the flowers are of different lengths, with the external ones having a length even like 3, 4, 5 times the ones in the center, so really the overall appearance look like a firework. I made a video about Allium schubertii a few days ago. I will post the link on the comments below. And as plants in the garden, alliums are great for pollinators, as already mentioned, and also obviously to give a vertical statement to any garden. Therefore they work best between the mid and the back border, because most of the garden varieties available are over 50 centimeters tall. However, there's a few garden varieties like the Allium mole that is just about 20-25 centimeters tall, and they can be placed in the front part of the border. Definitely these are plants that I can recommend to any garden, especially if you like tones of purple and pink and white. And these are great for pollinators, so they're also good for the environment, because as you know, bees are declining, are widely declining in several countries, including the UK. So it's very important also as gardeners to do our bit to try to improve the environment where we live. Some alliums, like the Allium siculum, have pendant flowers. However, most of the flowers, as you can see in this Christophi, are born erect to make the classical ball-shaped flowers. There's not many species of plants that produce these flower heads, especially not hardy in the UK, so definitely that's another reason because you would like to have alliums in the garden. These are some of the most bizarre and still, even if still, most common plants in the garden, and I'm sure you will enjoy their presence in spring and summer. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like to support this channel and to have updated feedbacks, just subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.